What's going on, guys? It's Clutch Plays here. Now that the NBA free agency is finally coming towards an end, teams are going to be looking to trade players to make sure they have the roster they want heading into the 2019 NBA season. Now that the Warriors dynasty has been sort of destroyed, at the moment the NBA has become wide open for this season. I'm filming this before the Kawhi Leonard decision, so just keep that in mind. There are about 5 teams right now who are in the running for an NBA championship. There are also another 8 teams or so who are 1 to 2 moves away from being in championship contention. In these next few months, be prepared for these 10 to 12 teams to make some blockbuster trades that no one sees coming to try and increase their odds at winning a championship. So with that said, let's hop into 4 blockbuster trades that will blindside the NBA. In the first trade, the Miami Heat will be getting another all-star to pair next to Jimmy Butler and Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal and John Wall will be sent to the Miami Heat, and Derrick Jones Jr., Tyler Herro, James Johnson, Kelly Olynyk, Ryan Anderson, and a 2025 top 5 protected first round pick will be sent to the Wizards. Yes, this trade is huge, but if the Heat want to get Bradley Beal, they definitely have to be willing to take on John Wall's contract. The Wizards are totally against trading away their franchise player, but once they get a new GM, significant changes will be made to this roster. The Wizards need to start a full-on rebuild because John Wall is coming off of 2 major injuries, and even when he was healthy, the Wizards were still a bottom 10 NBA team. The Wizards have been against completely tearing everything down, but Wall is going to come back much more unathletic and ultimately a worse player. This team won't be the same as they were 4 years ago and need to rebuild by attaining young players and picks. One way the Wizards can do this is by sending Bradley Beal to the Miami Heat and asking for 3 players who are under the age of 24 and a draft pick in 2025, which is extremely valuable. The Wizards also get off the atrocious contract of John Wall that extends into 2023, where he will be making $47 million. Next, the Heat acquired Jimmy Butler, but don't have enough help around him to make a serious playoff run. Getting Bradley Beal on the Heat will make them a top 5 seed in the East for sure. The Heat need to get some help around Jimmy Butler, and prying away Bradley Beal from the Wizards will be hard, but if the Heat want to be serious playoff contenders, they have to be willing to give up a package similar to the one in this trade right here. If John Wall can return in 2020 and be at least 80% of his old self, this team has a chance to be seriously competitive in the 2020 season. For the second trade, Blake Griffin will be sent to the Denver Nuggets, and in return the Pistons will receive Paul Millsap and Michael Porter Jr. The Nuggets are in a weird spot because they are not truly championship contenders. However, they do have the best young core in the NBA and are the closest team there is to a championship contender. The Nuggets recently extended Jamal Murray, and it will go into effect during next year's free agency. This means that this season will be the final season the Nuggets are able to add another star player to fill out their team. The Nuggets currently have a 34-year-old Paul Millsap on a $30.5 million contract that expires this season, but his money will be absorbed by Jamal Murray's extension. If the Nuggets want to be serious champion contenders for years to come, maybe even the championship favorite this year, they need to pull the trigger on Blake Griffin. Blake is an all-star caliber player to this team who is still under contract for 3 more seasons. Blake, being 30 years old, has had plenty of playoff experience, which will help this young Nugget squad who has only been there 1 time. This trade immediately puts them head-to-head with the Lakers as the favorites to win the West and even the championship. On the flip side, the Pistons are trying to retool their team with young talent, as seen by the trade with the Bucks for Tony Snell and draft picks. The Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond experiment clearly did not work, and the Pistons should be more open to getting a veteran power forward to help develop their first-round pick, Sekou Doumbouya. Also, Michael Porter Jr. would have been a top 3 pick in last year's draft if he was healthy, so now that he's healthy, I don't see the Pistons passing on him. In this trade, the Pistons retooled their team with young talent and still have a chance to compete for a playoff spot this year, while significantly improving their chances to be better in the future. I do want to add at the end of this trade that there are many different variations to this trade that the Nuggets and Pistons can both do if they want to keep Michael Porter Jr. or maybe add in draft picks and stuff, but the gist of the deal will be Blake Griffin becoming a Denver Nugget. This third trade may be the craziest of them all because Paul George becomes a Golden State Warrior. Paul George and Jeremy Grant will be sent to the Warriors, and in return the Thunder will receive Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, D'Angelo Russell, and 2020 and 2022 first round picks unprotected. Okay, before you say I'm crazy, let me explain myself here. The Warriors recently lost Kevin Durant to the Nets, but got D'Angelo Russell in a sign-and-trade deal that was completed. The Warriors have come out and flat out said that they want to use D'Angelo Russell as a trade piece in hopes to get a better player in return to help them win a championship. For the Warriors to get a player of Paul George's caliber, Draymond will sadly have to be thrown into the deal. The Warriors have been hesitant to give Draymond Green a contract extension, and they may be willing to trade him away instead of losing him for nothing next year in free agency. This deal makes complete sense for the Warriors, and if they can make this happen, they instantly move back into being the title favorites. The Thunder should do this deal because Westbrook and George together has clearly not worked out, as demonstrated by 2 first-round playoff exits in a row. The main issue with the Thunder is on offense they play way too much isolation and have trouble moving the ball around for open shots. There are a few other issues like depth and shooting, but isolation is the main one. However, adding Draymond Green to this team, who is the facilitator on offense for Golden State and is one of the most unselfish players in the NBA, will only help them play together more. On top of this, the Thunder can pair Westbrook with one of the biggest rising stars in the NBA today, D'Angelo Russell. Russell can play next to Westbrook as a spot-up shooter or run the offense if Russ is throwing up bad shots and turning the ball over left and right. This team also becomes one of the best defensive teams in the NBA immediately because Draymond is one of the best defenders in the NBA. Adding him to this group will elevate their defensive intensity as well. Finally, the last reason this trade benefits the Thunder is because at the end of games, D'Lo is extremely clutch and can take most of the crunch time shots instead of Russ. At the end of the day, the Thunder need to do something different with the roster heading into this next season, and this may be just what they need. Once again, I'm going to say there are multiple variations. The Warriors may need to add in more picks, or maybe they could take away picks, but just understand the main parts of the trade. The final trade is a swap of horrible contracts, where John Wall will be going to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Andrew Wiggins and Jeff Teague will be going to the Washington Wizards. The Timberwolves have been looking for a point guard replacement and could use a player like Wall next to Cat. Wall won't be nearly as athletic as he was before, however, he still will be on the verge of being a top 10 starting point guard in the NBA. We all know the contract is terrible, but he fits the timeline of the Timberwolves, who should be making the playoffs in 2 years or so. Next year, their team gets worse with this trade, which may be good for the franchise because they get a better pick to put on this team or to use to trade for a star player. If the T-Wolves can use this pick to get a good power forward, their team could be very special come 2020. Next, the Wizards have already been shopping John Wall to other teams, so they should be eager to get off of his contract. Andrew Wiggins is a young player who has tons of potential, but has not put in the work or any work to reach that potential. Minnesota is clearly not working for him, so maybe what he needs is a change of scenery to motivate him to want to become a star. The Wizards are much better off on taking a shot on Andrew Wiggins than waiting for John Wall to return and try and run it back with that same exact roster. Jeff Teague is really only involved to make the salaries work, so he doesn't really help or hurt this trade in any way. Both of these teams should discuss doing this trade because the Wizards get a project and the Timberwolves get a possible point guard replacement they have been so desperately searching for. Tell me what you guys thought about these trades, and I know some of them may have been a bit lopsided towards one team, but the important thing that you guys should take away is the main players being traded. With that said, thank you guys for watching, and if you have made it this far into the video, I appreciate you so much. With that said, I'm out and peace!